When your sequencer fails, or your MIDI cable gets unplugged, or something gets screwed up, you have about 3 seconds before the dance floor clears. Well, today I'm going to show you how to build your own escape patch. A patch that will help you cover your mistake, keep the vibe alive, and give you some time to reset. So stick around. I'm Cephalos, and there's not a worse thing in the world for a DAWless performer when you're playing your live set and the cable gets unplugged, a synth doesn't want to work anymore, and your whole plane falls into the ocean. What are you going to do then? Well, the trick is resilience. With the DAWless rig we have lots of players and we can set some of them up especially for the purpose of being a lifeline, giving us an escape from silence that we dread. And that's what the escape patch is all about. So I'm going to take you through two kinds of escape patches that I have and that you should consider. One being a synthesizer based patch and sequence, and another being a drum machine groovebox based beat or sequence. Enjoy and see you on the other side. Here we are, the escape patch. This is a must-have if you're performing live, and there are kind of different levels of complexity that you can have. So let's start with the most complicated and stick around for the simpler lifelines a bit later. So one thing I like to do if you have a groovebox or drum machine is to have a kind of a go-to escape pattern that if something gets screwed up you can go to. Now this pattern should be slow and should be relatively long, and it should have enough musical interest to sustain you for at least a few minutes while you figure things out. The other thing important is that it should be easily accessible. So what I like to do is to put it kind of at the end or a slot that you can easily get to. So on this particular machine you have pattern select, so I'll go in the highest bank 8 and the last patch 16. So this way you don't have to kind of hunt and figure out what is what, you can get to it fairly quickly. So this is the escape patch that I created here. It's kind of the lo-fi vibe. There's a little chord here to help move things along and give it some sense of melodic harmonic progression. So this is a lo-fi vibe beat that I made here and may not quite fit into your set, but you can make a slow and long beat too that would fit a bit better into your set. So let's look how this could actually work live. So let's go back to a techno beat that I have here. You're getting things going, you're building things up. Everything's going well, you're excited to get into it, but then all of a sudden, oh, this stops, you don't know what happened. Maybe what I want is a little sound transition quick. Going to my escape patch. Now, maybe a bit awkward, but we don't have that crazy stop. And now we have time to recover. Okay, let's reset this bass part here where it was. I can reconnect this delay. Turn off the sequencer. Important stuff. Now, if you want to connect it musically to what just happened without worrying about going to the faster beat, well, let's play along with the same bass line. Now this is not quite swung, so we could also work on the swing. So this is a little better. Now those 16 notes are a bit delayed. Okay, so this is a one way to work your escape patch if you have the opportunity to create the entire beat. All right, let's get back to where we started. Okay, this is all fine and well if this is working, but what happens if this breaks down, or if you go to a wrong drum pattern here? Well, for that, we go to the next level of complexity. A synth patch and a sequence. Minilogue XD is great because even though it's a fairly simple synth, so they're limited option in terms of sound design, it has a great sequencer with motion automation lanes. So we can actually create a patch that again is going to fulfill those two criteria, be really long and be fairly slow if possible, so that we can buy some time as we are readjusting stuff. Okay? So let's listen to that patch first. So a couple of things about this. This is a bit quicker. It's because it's reading the tempo here, so again, if we have a slower tempo at the MIDI clock here coming out, we can get a bit slower thing. Notice that because the MIDI is coming in here, this tempo knob is not doing anything. We do have to change how the MIDI clock is read. But this is also a nice way that if we go into this, we can slow down. So let's go back to where we were. 125. So, gears going, let's put this. And now something happens. And we now we transition to that, and we can slow it down gradually here. And now we combined techniques, right? Now we went back to that slow groove since we kind of slowed that down. Okay? So that's a kind of a second scenario where you can actually develop a sequence and a patch. And finally, number 3, let's look at the simplest scenario. Okay? Now, in that simplest scenario, you're just having a patch. So you may have a synth that doesn't have a sequencer. In that case, you just want to patch that with 1 or 2 keyboard presses will do the work for you. Now that also doesn't necessarily work on every synth. Like this synth doesn't have patch memory. So what you see is what you get. Okay, back to our techno beat. So here's our techno beat. Maybe we're having some fun. Oh, we lost the power here. Right, we're getting lots of sound for very little key presses. Okay, so what's happening here? Let's look at what makes up this patch. So in your simplest scenario, where really you're only looking at a synth that's ideally polyphonic and it has to have patch memory, what do you want to do here? Well, let's look at the envelope first. So very slow envelopes. You'll notice the attack and decay are almost at their maximum. So that is really slow amplitude attack, really slow decay. We have sustain somewhere in the middle, and a very long release to buy you time. Okay? Filter envelope are similarly set. Very long on attack, very long on decay. Although envelope intensity is not all the way up, and you can see that's going to the filter. Okay, so if we remove the filter envelope, we would just have this. Now this is also okay, but notice that as soon as we put a filter envelope, we get additional interest. We want more modulation and we want rich sound. So besides having a high sawtooth wave and a lower square wave here, there's this digital oscillator here that provides a little more texture. So now we're only listening to digital oscillator. And let's get rid of the LFO. So that's really nice. Here's a LFO that's modulating the shape of the oscillators. This is really strong. I like to put it more moderately. And the other thing that's happening, we have a massive shimmer reverb here. Long tail and fairly wet. Let's try to reconnect our drum machine here. And now hopefully, after we planned our escape, we can get back to the groove. All right, I hope this has been helpful and this helps you plan your own escape. See you on the other side.